Hi, my name is Katie Ibarra, and this is my informative speech. This is my audience. Alrighty, let's get started. Ted Bundy once said, "We serial killers are your sons, we're your husbands, we are everywhere. And there will be more of your children dead tomorrow." Do you ever wonder what makes a person say these things? Or perhaps what makes a person want to kill not just one, but tons of people? Well, today those questions will be answered. I will discuss what makes a serial killer from a psychological viewpoint, a stereotypical serial killer, as well as what makes a person want to become one, or how does a person become one. According to the FBI, a serial killer is a person who kills 3 or more people for psychological gratification, with the murders taking place over a month, also including a significant period of time between them, which means they will usually kill one person, wait 1 or 2 weeks, do it again, or even wait a month, do it again, and then continue that pattern for a certain amount of time. And the FBI knew that it was important to understand serial killers due to the spike of serial killing in America during the 1970s and the 1980s. Now, when we talk about serial killers, there is a stereotypical serial killer that always comes to mind when we think about them. They are often white males, usually between the ages of 20s to their 40s. Often appear intelligent. They can be considered a loner to the people around them, or they can be in long-term relationships or even married. They also often have criminal history. And not just that, but there is also similarities between their victims. Their victims are predominantly a young adult female of the same race, often go after strangers than someone they know. They select their victims off of 3 things: availability, vulnerability, and desirability. That's how they will ask themselves, is she alone? Is she crying? Is she happy? Is it day? Is it night? Do I like her? Does she have that luscious brown hair that I desire? Is she slim? Is she thin? Is she white? Is she black? They're very tedious about the things that they like and what they want. And an example of a serial killer that everybody most likely knows is Ted Bundy. He was a famous serial killer in the 20th century who kidnapped, raped, and murdered young women, all with similar appearances from 1974 to 1978 across 7 different states. Bundy was an intelligent member of society who also had a long-term relationship during the time he was committing these offenses. It is thought he was around 28 when he began his crimes, and most of Bundy's victims were females in their late teens or early 20s. A technique he frequently used to lure his victims was to pretend that he was injured, or he would drop something, they would go and help him, and when they would go help him, he would abduct them and violently murder them. That's how he got most of the women that, well, sadly he took. But let's not forget that females can also be serial killers. According to Discover, about 11% of serial killers are women, but there are distinctive features that make them arguably better at serial killing than men. Women tend to start later, around their 30s, compared to men who start in their 20s to their 40s, and are more likely to use poison opposed to more violently weapons, and they're much cleaner about the scenarios and how they do it. Their victim is also often someone they know compared to a complete stranger or someone they're taking care of. Yeah. But overall, female serial killers generally have more success in serial killing. They have longer careers and take longer to be caught, despite them typically killing someone they know, because they're very good at playing it off and covering their tracks and making sure they don't get caught, compared to men. If they're doing it violently, that means blood is everywhere, murder scene. They're not very willing to do it in a proper way to not get caught. But what actually makes a person become a serial killer, and how do you become one? What changes between your own self that makes you do these kinds of things. A 2000 report by Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin found neuroimaging studies of those who have been convicted of murder show a difference in brain activity compared to those who haven't committed such offenses. So whenever you compare it to somebody who has murdered someone and someone who hasn't, we were able to notice the more towards their emotions and them having no remorse and or not showing any emotions and just technically just not feeling bad for their actions. But compared to a person who does have feelings, you'll show those, and it's all in our brain activity with serotonin and those happy chemicals that we have in our brain. Abuse has been recognized as a contributing factor by criminologists and psychologists. However, most people who survive abuse do not become serial killers, and 32% of serial killers have no history of abuse. Serial killers choose to act on their compulsions. So it doesn't mean that they come from a terrible childhood or have been through such things to make them want to do it. They simply just do it because they want to. It might not be that serial killers are made, but the majority are unmade by good parents and socialization. It is more likely the case of a combination of genetics, life experiences that may increase a person's chances to become a serial killer. It can also just simply be the environment that you're being surrounded with and the influences, and when you're doing your everyday actions will decide on who you become and what you decide to do with your life. If there's bad in your nature, you're going to be bad. If there's good in your nature, you're going to be good. So it is more of a self thing that you have to decide. Beyond certain common personality traits, serial killers are unique, shaped by their own experiences, circumstances, and mindsets. Bundy presented a public persona that appeared adapted and reliable, but also nurtured a dark side that included fantasies about rape and murder. Serial killers have a chronic and overwhelming need to commit murder that distinguishes them from those who kill one time because it serves other criminal interests. Sometimes the act of or process of murder can simply be the end for them. They know that after they do this, they will either kill themselves or death penalty. They're fully aware of their consequences, but they're okay with that. Regardless of specific motives, most serial killers commit their crimes because they want to, and no one can stop them.